Two countries, two bets, one future. China is betting on electrons. America is betting on molecules. And the race between those two bets, playing out right now across factories and laboratories and policy rooms on opposite sides of the planet, will determine which country leads the world for the next 100 years. Here is where the score stands today. China manufactures 80% of the world's solar panels, 75% of the world's lithium-ion batteries, 60% of the world's electric vehicles. It has built more high-speed rail in the last 20 years than the rest of the world combined. Its drone industry, military and civilian, is so dominant that American soldiers in conflict zones are explicitly warned not to use Chinese-made drones because the data goes back to Beijing. Its robot installations in factories now exceed those of every other country on Earth. And its artificial intelligence capabilities, once dismissed as mere imitation, are now competitive with the best that Silicon Valley produces. Meanwhile, the United States has just approved more oil and gas drilling permits than at any point in its history. Its energy policy is built around the assumption that fossil fuels are the foundation of economic strength. Its politicians celebrate energy dominance measured in barrels per day and cubic feet of natural gas. Its infrastructure for the energy transition, EV charging networks, battery manufacturing, solar production, lags behind China by margins that, in some categories, can only be described as staggering. America is the world's largest petrostate. China is the world's largest clean energy superpower. And the gap between those two positions, which seemed manageable a decade ago, is now large enough that serious people in Washington are asking a question that would have seemed absurd in 2010. Is it already too late to catch up? To understand this race, you need to understand a concept that Chinese planners call the electric stack. The electric stack is not a single technology. It is an ecosystem, a set of interconnected industries that reinforce each other, build on each other, and collectively constitute the infrastructure of the 21st century economy. At the base of the stack, batteries. The ability to store electricity cheaply, densely, and reliably is the foundational technology of the electric age. Without batteries, solar and wind power are intermittent and unreliable. Without batteries, electric vehicles cannot compete with combustion engines on range or cost. Without batteries, the electrification of everything, transportation, industry, buildings, is impossible. Above batteries in the stack, electric vehicles. EVs are not just cars. They are the largest single consumer of battery technology, the driver of battery manufacturing scale, and the platform on which software, data, and AI increasingly sit. The country that dominates EVs dominates the data generated by hundreds of millions of connected vehicles, data that feeds autonomous driving systems, urban planning, energy grid management, and military logistics. Above EVs, drones and robots. Both are essentially flying and walking batteries with software. The manufacturing capabilities, the battery technology, and the electric motor expertise that produce EVs are the same capabilities that produce military and commercial drones and industrial robots. They are not separate industries. They are the same stack, expressed in different form factors. At the top of the stack, artificial intelligence. AI runs on electricity, enormous quantities of it, consumed by data centers that are essentially giant computing machines. The country that leads in clean, cheap, abundant electricity generation leads in AI infrastructure. And the country that leads in AI leads in everything else. Military capability, industrial productivity, scientific research, economic competitiveness. China understood this stack 15 years ago. It made a national strategic decision to dominate every layer of it. And it has executed that decision with a consistency and resources that democracies, with their 4-year election cycles and lobbying-shaped energy policies, have struggled to match. America, for most of that period, was building pipelines. The story of China's clean energy dominance is not a story of superior technology or natural advantage. It is a story of deliberate, sustained, patient industrial policy executed over 2 decades. In the early 2000s, China had almost no solar manufacturing capacity. The technology was invented in the United States, developed in Germany and Japan, and China was a marginal player. Within 15 years, China had driven the cost of solar panels down by 90% and captured 80% of global production. How? The Chinese government identified solar manufacturing as a strategic priority. It provided land at below-market rates. It offered cheap financing through state banks. It subsidized electricity costs for manufacturers. It created domestic demand through aggressive installation targets. It trained engineers and workers at scale. And it accepted years of losses in pursuit of the long-term goal of market dominance. Western solar manufacturers, in the United States, Germany, and elsewhere, could not compete with Chinese manufacturers who were effectively being subsidized by the Chinese state. They went bankrupt, one by one. The industry consolidated in China, and then, once Chinese manufacturers had achieved dominance and driven costs to levels that made solar the cheapest source of electricity in history, the subsidies became less necessary. The scale itself sustained the advantage. The same playbook was run on batteries. China identified CATL, contemporary Amperex technology, as a national champion in battery manufacturing and supported its development with financing, market access, and industrial policy. CATL is now the largest battery manufacturer in the world, with a market share that exceeds all of its global competitors combined. The same playbook on E versus BYD, Build Your Dream, is now the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in the world by volume, having overtaken Tesla in 2023. It sells vehicles in over 70 countries. Its batteries, its motors, its software, all made in China, increasingly for the world. The playbook works, and America spent the years it took to execute it arguing about whether climate change was real. The United States is the world's largest oil and gas producer. It pumps more petroleum than Saudi Arabia, more natural gas than Russia, more hydrocarbons than any country in human history. This is celebrated as strength. It is, in the context of the energy transition, increasingly a liability. The political economy of American energy is dominated by the fossil fuel industry, an industry with enormous financial resources, deep political connections, and a rational interest in extending the age of molecules as long as possible. American energy policy is shaped by that industry to a degree that has no equivalent in China, where the state makes strategic decisions based on long-term national interest rather than the lobbying priorities of incumbent industries. The result is an energy policy built around the past, approving drilling permits on federal lands, expanding LNG export terminals, celebrating oil production records. These are not irrational policies in the short term. Oil and gas generate jobs, export revenue, and geopolitical leverage. But they are policies that optimize for the world of 2010 rather than the world of 2040. The Inflation Reduction Act, passed in 2022, was the most significant American investment in clean energy in history. It allocated $369 billion to clean energy tax credits EV incentives, battery manufacturing subsidies, and renewable energy development. It was a genuine attempt to apply something like industrial policy to the energy transition. It is being dismantled. The Trump administration has moved to cancel IRA tax credits, roll back EV mandates, withdraw from international climate agreements, and explicitly reframe American energy policy around fossil fuel expansion. The message, stated openly, celebrated at political rallies, is that America will drill its way to energy dominance. Meanwhile, China has announced plans to install more renewable energy capacity in 2024 alone than the United States has installed in its entire history. Here is where the electron versus molecule debate stops being abstract and becomes a matter of national survival. Modern warfare runs on the electric stack. Drones have transformed the battlefield, in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in every conflict where they have been deployed. They are cheap, precise, difficult to defend against, and manufacturable at scale. Ukraine has built a drone industry that produces over 1 million drones per year. Russia has acquired Iranian Shaheds and North Korean artillery shells to compensate for its manufacturing limitations. And China? China's DJI, a single civilian drone company, produces roughly 70% of the world's commercial drones. The military applications of that manufacturing base, that software expertise, and that supply chain dominance are not theoretical. American military planners have explicitly identified Chinese drone capability as one of the most significant asymmetric threats in any potential Taiwan conflict scenario. American soldiers in multiple theaters have been ordered not to use DJI drones because the data, video footage, GPS coordinates, operational patterns, is transmitted back to servers in China. The United States military is fighting 21st century wars with a policy of avoiding the dominant military technology of 21st century warfare because that technology is Chinese. That is not a minor operational inconvenience. It is a strategic vulnerability of the first order. The battery dimension is equally stark. The United States military's electrification plans, electric tactical vehicles, battery-powered equipment, forward operating bases powered by solar and storage, depend on battery supply chains that run almost entirely through China. The minerals that go into those batteries, lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, are mined, processed, and refined predominantly in Chinese-controlled supply chains. America is trying to build a 21st century military on a supply chain controlled by its primary strategic competitor. The irony is not lost on the Pentagon planners who have been raising this alarm for years and watching it fail to produce adequate policy response. The energy transition is not just a technological race between the US and China. It is a geopolitical contest for the allegiance of every other country on Earth. And China is winning that contest too. The Belt and Road Initiative, China's massive infrastructure investment program spanning over 140 countries, has increasingly pivoted toward clean energy infrastructure. Chinese companies are building solar farms in Africa, wind projects in Latin America, hydroelectric dams in Southeast Asia, and EV charging networks across the developing world. These investments create economic dependency, technical standards dependency, and political alignment, the same tools that American Marshall Plan investment used to anchor Western Europe in the American orbit after World War II. The developing world is choosing its energy future right now, and it is choosing it based on who shows up with financing and technology. China shows up, consistently, at scale, with terms that, whatever their long-term debt implications, offer something real in the near term. America shows up with conditions, with democratic governance requirements, with environmental standards that developing country governments find burdensome, and with financing that moves slowly through multilateral institutions designed for a different era. The result is that the countries that will account for the majority of new energy demand over the next 30 years, in Africa, in South and Southeast Asia, in Latin America, are building their energy systems on Chinese technology with Chinese financing aligned with Chinese technical standards. The standards point matters enormously. The country whose technical standards define an industry shapes that industry for generations. America defined the standards for the Internet age. China is defining the standards for the electric age. Every EV charging standard, every battery chemistry specification, every grid management protocol that becomes the global default is a form of infrastructure dominance that compounds over time. This is the question that honest analysts in Washington are struggling to answer. The optimistic case. No, it is not too late. The United States retains enormous advantages: the world's best universities, the deepest capital markets, the most innovative private sector, the strongest military alliances, and the dollar's reserve currency status that gives American economic policy a global reach no other country can match. The IRA, even partially implemented, has catalyzed genuine private investment in American clean energy manufacturing. Battery gigafactories are being built. EV manufacturing is expanding. The technological foundations exist. The pessimistic case. In critical categories, the gap is already too large to close within the time frame that matters. Solar manufacturing? Gone. Battery manufacturing. China's lead is measured in years and hundreds of billions of dollars of installed capacity. EV manufacturing. BYD's cost advantage, built on vertical integration and scale, is not closable through policy alone. And the political will to make the sustained, multi-decade investment required to close these gaps does not currently exist in Washington. The honest case sits between them. America cannot win the clean energy race by doing what it is currently doing. Fossil fuel dominance is a 20th century strategy in a 21st century competition. The molecules will matter for decades longer. The energy transition will take time, and oil will remain important. But the strategic advantage is shifting, steadily and structurally, toward electrons. The country that controls the electric stack controls the economy of the future, the military of the future, the geopolitical leverage of the future. China decided to control that stack 20 years ago. America is still deciding whether the stack is real. That decision, made or not made in the next few years in Washington, will shape the world more than any military budget, any trade negotiation, any diplomatic initiative. The electrons are already winning. The only question is whether America will figure that out before the race is over.